Hi, this is Scott Sustachek, your host for CEO to CEO, the podcast from the CEO Roundtable. CEO Roundtable is a peer-to-peer organization that brings business leaders together to share wisdom, experience, and insights from the trenches. Today's episode is sponsored by Introworks, launching powerful B2B brands for more than 30 years. Learn more about them at intro.works. This is Scott Sustachek, and on this week's episode of CEO to CEO, I'm so excited to have Bob Freytag from Introworks. Hi, Bob. Welcome.
Well, good to be here. Hello to you.
And as you know, all of our listeners, that Introworks is one of our sponsors. So, Bob, we appreciate that, and your support has been stellar for us. So, thank you.
Well, we're very happy to do and very proud of the organization. So, thank you.
And we're here today to talk about branding that wins. And this is such an intriguing topic. You talk about branding, people's minds can go so many places, and there are so many ways you can take that. And having worked with you over the years and in a couple of different stops along the way, I've learned a lot about branding from you and from your organization. And so I'm excited for you to be able to share that with our audience today. I want to give our listeners a little bit about your background first, but you're obviously a founding partner here at Introworks, which is a marketing agency that helps local and global medtech innovators launch and relaunch products, services, and brands. You oversee all critical operations of the company, including sales, marketing, and account service and finance. And you're very heavily involved in helping develop strategic partnerships and new customer acquisition. And recently created and obviously jumped into the fractional market, the fractional launch navigator service here at Introworks. So that's got to be exciting for you.
Oh, yes. Happy to go into all types of details as much as you want on any of those topics, actually.
Well, and so you joined the Roundtable in 2013 and are also on the board. So.
Yes. 11 years now.
All
been
right.
Involved with the association. So
we talked just a couple things there about Introworks, but maybe give our audience a background on Introworks and the company and the exciting things that you guys are working on here.
Well, happy to. And I'll try to keep this brief and not bore everybody with the background. But so my partner and I, we came together a long, long time ago. It has been 32 years.
Wow.
Since we found out we're about a year and a half out of, I like to say grade school, but actually it was college when we came together, and a mutual friend reintroduced us. So Mike he came out of school, journalism writer. I came out of school as the background in design and art direction. But I think what really brought us together when we started working together was this idea of branding, and that each company is truly unique. Our job, right, is to go in, find that core essence and pull it out of the client and bring it to life, right? And that was the foundation of almost from day one, going back all those years. Still is true, I think, today into what we do. Today, little different process of what we've I'll say perfected over the years of how to do that and how to bring that to market. And when we first came out with Freytag McMillan, Introworks was actually a launching methodology we had been developing and working on early years of the company. In 2000, we rebranded our company to Introworks to really focus on that launching element of what we did. And the core foundation of it is truly built around creating brands. And what we like to say is creating a story that wins. Mm-hmm. So that's the foundation of everything that we do. And why the medtech? Well, we got our first medtech customer back in '93, so we've literally been working in that space. It's not the only space. We are a B2B branding company overall. Been about 70% of our overall business. So a lot of experience in there, a lot of experience in general B2B, manufacturing, technology-oriented companies.
Yeah. And I think that this whole branding concept, again, because when I say the word brand, everybody thinks of something different. They think of, well, it's marketing or it's social media or how you come across to your customers. But it's all that and more. And I think that's the thing that in working with your organization so many times that I've learned is that brand extends throughout your organization, and it's supported by the culture of your company and how you deliver that brand promise. And I think, to me, so many companies maybe only get parts of that right, but I think your organization talks about that and works on that in a very unique way. And so I'd like you to talk about, especially in today's world when we're just bombarded with things, emails, social media, things we see on television, how do companies craft a message or a story that gives them differentiation?
Oh, that is a great question and a big question. And you really have to get beyond your features and benefits, which B2B, there's a lot of logic, right? A lot of logic goes on, and you have to get well beyond that. And you have to get down to that core. When I mention the essence, we talk a lot about emotions, right? What are that core emotion that your company can truly deliver on, which nobody else can, and it's true and it's authentic to you and your brand alone. If you can zero in on that, and there's a lot of different directions you could possibly go in when you do that. We have a very specific way we do approach this, a process that we follow from getting discovery to collecting the information to how we synthesize that. And then one of the keys is what we do too is bring this into the market and we test it with your core target audience to be sure it resonates. And I can tell you, you don't want to sit in a room, like the boardroom by yourself and make that determination or that decision without getting direct market feedback. It's one of the things that we see a lot of companies kind of skipping that step.
In that step, there are so many different nuances, I would imagine, you can get to how you position a product or a company in the market that you wouldn't get otherwise, that you would miss, and then ultimately you're missing in the market.
Well, yeah, and you have to be looking for it and listening for it, right? Kind of have to have the direction what you want to go to, and I'm talking about that. The emotion is trying to capture who these people are, who your audience is, what is it they're truly buying from you. It's always something. It's not illogical or something you expect it to be. It's always something different every single time. And it's being able to, I think, dive in and understand that, connect those dots. But then when you kind of think that you know what it is, now you got to put it together. We start putting what I call market-facing language. Mm-hmm. And then from there, now, and we'll boil that down as a team, but then we'll take that out and put that in front of somebody and get that market reaction. And we're not putting it in with a lot of different things that are going to confuse the language. It's really about the specific words that we want to understand how they're going to react to them.
Right.
And what does it mean to them? Because sometimes a word can change the context of what we're trying to get across.
Sure. And so if I'm a company and I'm looking to, and I'm in a crowded marketplace and I've got competitors in all different facets, I've got customers saying, well, give me a better price, give me a better price. How do I think about my brand and where do I start with that in terms of trying to get out of that red ocean trap of just selling on price or selling because I'm in the right spot at the right time, but rather I'm building a brand that...
What you're trying to understand is how does your product or service impact that customer? What does it really do to them? What does it mean when they're using your product or service? Mm-hmm. Does it change the way they're perceived in the marketplace? Does it change the way their peers might view them in the marketplace? Does it allow them to get home early on time and not have to work late at nights?
Right.
Is it a reliability issue? It can be all types of different things, but it's digging in deep enough, I think, to truly understand what that is, and then pulling that insight to the surface, and then connecting the dots between the features and benefits you do that, but boils it up to that overarching message. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So based on your experience, how do you go about doing that with a company?
All right. Well, it does start by talking to your customers. That's where it all starts from. We go out, we have deep conversations. We really understand what they're going through. Why did they hire you? How did that product impact their business, possibly their careers? Right? And we're talking to a number of people. It could be 10, 15 people, but truly trying to understand what's going on. From their work, then we take all that information back. We also get it from your core team. Mm-hmm. And then we go through, and this is a few weeks process that we really like to roll around in what we heard. We're up here, we're whiteboarding it out internally, we're putting together different thoughts, ideas, elements that we've heard, and we get these down into what we call strategic narratives. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we might have 5, 6, 7 of these things. We're going to come back together with the team, your team at your company, okay, and we're going to walk through. Here's what we heard. Here's where these insights are of what we saw in the marketplace. Sometimes you might agree, sometimes you might not agree. We're going to have some of those hard conversations. At the end of that piece, we're going to have these strategic narratives that we're going to go through. And the team, we're going to pick what we think are going to be the 3 best ones Is it differentiated? Is it meaningful? Can we deliver on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now once we have that, as a team, we've agreed to that. Now those we're going to turn around and go out to the marketplace and play those back to your audience members to see how it resonates with them. Do they connect with it? Do they think it's differentiated? Does it sound like everybody else out there or not? And we're always learning along the ways and fine-tuning as we're going in that process.
Right. You know, I recently sat through a presentation, and it was all about how great this product was and how it was manufactured. But the presenter didn't give me anything of what was in it for me. Make it easier for my guys to install. Was it safer for my crews? Were we able to complete jobs faster? And I think it gets back to something you said a little bit ago, but where's that appeal of that emotional appeal of what that product does? And so I think, you know, as I think about all the great brands out there, there's always that emotional connection, right?
Yeah, exactly. How does it impact me in my world?
Right.
And that's what so many people do think miss. It's not about the whiz-bang features. It's not about the latest, greatest, how many widgets this thing has or more than the competition, but it's about how it affects, how does it show up in your daily life and change you when you use this.
Yeah.
That's why brand, I think, can be kind of this elusive thing to hold on to. And we talk about creating stories that win. It's like when you can connect and thread that needle, that's where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, you boil it down, we also think in terms of we're marketing agencies, so like taglines and things like that. And there's some famous ones, people use, what's in your wallet? We've got, some of the ones we use, like one, this was for a med tech customer that we did, but it was called The Need to Bleed. Now, our audience, that might not mean a lot, but I can tell you to this specific audience, that meant a lot because we were referring to bleeding bone. I won't go into that whole case study, but it was the notion by creating this, you could say from a bleeding bone, that you got true bone fusion.
What you're getting to, though, is taking complexity and making it a simple message, right? Or bringing it more to something that resonates. I think, the brand you created for me once upon a time, we had a 3-word branding, right? But it hit on everything that we were trying to do as an organization. And so I think it's when you get to those things of taking all that complexity and saying, it's X. We are X.
Exactly. Well, we like to say it has to be emotional.
Yep.
Has to be simple.
Yep.
And it has to be remarkable. Those are kind of the 3 things we focus in on when we're creating these things. And if you can do that with your core level positioning, that's when you start creating the essence of a story that wins.
So as you think about those 3 words, like, give me a brand that comes to mind that's doing that really well.
Consumer world that people can connect to. I mean, the obvious one I think is always Apple, right? Everybody can. If you're an Apple user, I'm a huge Mac fan, right. So it does that and connects. It's one of the most powerful brands and profitable brands in the world, right? There's those when you get into, but those are to the masses. Even at the B2B level, you can still have that type of power. Audience might not be as big, but when you can do that with your audience, you're doing the same thing those big consumer brands do to your competition, right? You're going to get a higher margin. Mm-hmm. You're going to make it easier for people to select you because you are the premier brand in the marketplace. You have to be delivering on it, right? You have to be being authentic to that. So that's going to help. And versus if sales organizations, maybe you're growing at 8-10%. If you get the branding down, you get some of these foundational elements right now. Instead of growing at that pace, you can grow at 15-20%. Over time, huge difference to a business. And that's where I think, especially maybe connecting with other CEOs, that's how you have to be thinking about it. It's not a short-term gain. When we're talking about long-term branding, you're not going to know right away if it's on the money. If you keep changing your message from time to time or tweaking it year after year, you're in the wrong place, right? You have not nailed this down. You haven't found out that foundational message that you need to be successful.
Of the 3 things you talked about, emotional, simple, remarkable, which one's the hardest for companies to get or for them to build into their brand, do you think?
Simple.
Really?
Absolutely. Simple is really, really hard. When it comes down to it, it is. And that's the complexity of B2B. You can get in and you can have multiple audiences you have to deal with. You might have your fiduciator, your user, direct customer. Maybe there's somebody that isn't involved in the decision, but they just got to use your product. So all these different needs that you have to, and personalities that you have to deal with. Somebody has to go in the bullseye, and you have to have everything ladder up to this thing. And to get the agreement and the alignment on what this is going to be and know that it's going to work in the marketplace, that's a pretty hard thing to do.
And so then along the same lines, how do you take an everyday industrial product in a B2B world, how do you make that remarkable? Like how do you find that for companies that, they're selling widgets, for lack of a better term, right? How do you make that remarkable?
Well, you got to think of the experiences and what you're trying to do at the core level. I'll give you an example. This was a few years ago. We were working with Dow Water and Process Solutions. So we're helping them. We're at their trade show. We're going to Water World. I think it was going to be in Australia that year. I can't remember where it was. But what we wanted to do was to bring an experience to life in this trade show. And they typically would do a great big booth. Well, what we did, we utilized virtual reality technology, and we had stations that we had throughout the trade show center. So people could come by, you'd put on your headsets, and literally you'd be standing in a water treatment center.
Oh.
And we stationed them around, so it was like you're doing a tour of a facility at a trade show. As an example, that got people talking about them. That's what we mean when we say remarkable.
Right.
And it wasn't anything that was just outrageously crazy or cost prohibitive to do, but we used kind of ingenuity, and we like to think we kind of outsmarted the competition.
Sure. And well, really, any company could employ something like that with their product. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's using creativity, thinking in that way that I think is going to have an impact. But really, when we say remarkable, and I'll borrow this from somebody, but it's the idea that spreads wins.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do. The other element, and you can't always be changing the story. It has to be the same story. So you're constantly building and building and building as you're going.
And so as you work with different companies and you're working on these three themes, where do you see companies have the biggest challenge in supporting a brand in those three themes?
Internal alignment.
Okay.
Internal alignment. It's because, in this, a lot of times you can get varying personalities, and so you can have strong personalities that you're trying to deal with.
Right.
And get those all agreed and on the same page. A lot of the work that we do up front, we talk a lot, there's two different market gravities we have to overcome, internal and external. I think a lot of of our competitors, I think, tend to focus on the external. We focus a lot on that internal. If we do not get that internal team aligned around where we're going and why, it's going to fall apart. It's going to fail before it even launches.
Well, and I think that underscores a lot of what we talked about earlier in this of getting everyone moving directionally around that brand, because it will, if you're going to try to change your position in the market, it's going to change your company and change your business and change how you support that brand.
Mm-hmm. We like to say, change the conversation, right?
Right,
We're trying
right.
to change the conversation in the marketplace, typically about this brand that maybe people think they know, and we're trying to get it to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Where we got to start is get that entire team to not only believe it, understand it, and want to champion it internally. Then we go and we start telling the outside world.
Yeah. So, as you think about all the companies out there, and especially the companies in the CEO Roundtable, we've got a great variety. And if someone's sitting there saying, "Hey, how do I get out of this fight in this red ocean of, price, and they just want it faster, and how do I really build a differentiated brand?" Like, what should be the first thing they start to think about in that journey?
Well, again, I'm going to go back to it's the core essence. It's what are the things that you do, and how does that impact your customer, and how do you know?
Yeah.
Don't guess. The biggest thing, you got to talk to people. And if you go down and you ask, if you talk to enough of your customers, you're going to start seeing and hearing, those the little tidbits of information is going to start giving you clues into what really it is.
Right.
We can make reliability be super exciting if that's what it is. boring is not always a bad thing. And you can bring boring to life in a really fun way that's going to get attention if that's one of the things that are very important to your audience. There's got to be enough of a thread there that makes it all hang together. And that's kind of the art and science part of it. I'll tell you, and it's this is one of the fortes of my partner. This is what he does, and he is great at it.
Well, and it's part being able to listen to all those nuances and those themes coming together, right? To tell you, okay, this is where this is headed.
Exactly. And you're trying to find the thread to pull on and start going down that path. And then, if you do that enough times and you start seeing those patterns, okay, maybe there's something here. That's what we pull back, and that's what we really try to roll around and understand, ideate around those things. Where does that take you to then? And then it brings up other ideas, and then it's a synthesis process that you have to go through. You boil it down, and it is the hardest thing, I think, to get it down, those handful of words that just bring it to life. I mean, that is, if you write a book, that's easy. Get it down to 4 words, that's really hard.
As you said, simple is hard, right?
Simple is hard.
I want to shift gears now a little bit and talk about your experience in the roundtable. And so could you share with our listeners, what's the most important decision the CEO Roundtable has helped you work through?
Oh, boy. There's been, I'd say, several over the years.
And you know what? That's not an uncommon answer for our guests on here. So,
well, and I'll say probably one of the bigger ones, we were bringing in a key person and helping me think about it in a different way versus just, okay, how are we going to do? What's the offer going to be? But just how to structure the deal, how to think about this in a way that benefits the company, the person. What happens if you don't have this person? What happens if you do have this person? Really understanding, like, what value do you really think this person's going to bring to the table? And keeping that in the mind for not being too short-sighted on it. I think that's the biggest thing that the roundtable does in general when you're making decisions. And
not telling you do it or don't do it, but saying, have you thought about these things? And have you thought about it from this perspective, right?
Exactly. It's or if I've done something similar, we're big on experience sharing, right? We're not telling you what to do, or it's just, well, when I saw that experience, here's what I did, here's the outcome of it.
Right.
Take of that what you can.
Right.
Right. So it's not, that's where, and that, I think, real world experience, I think trumps everything, right? It's a understanding what an outcome might be, because then you can apply that to your situation and think of how something's going to go or not go.
And use it in a way that's meaningful for you. Or not.
Exactly.
Say, okay, I've considered that. It doesn't fit my situation.
Yep. And I can tell you directly based on the advice that I got out of our group that it allowed this transaction to go through, and it was great. And it's been great. It's probably been one of the best things that's happened to our company, actually.
Well, that's outstanding, because that's what the group's there for, right? To help you make those meaningful decisions that change the trajectory of your company.
Yep.
So.
And it's not just you, right? Sometimes you sit here and you go, you need somebody to talk to.
Right. Well, and you need that perspective of someone who's in the trenches like you are, that's trying to make those decisions, and you make a lot of decisions in uncertainty, right?
Exactly.
And so the more information you can get that gives you those perspectives, the better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to switch gears one more time. And we're going to talk about you a little bit deeper and let the audience get to know you a little bit better. And I've got 3 questions I ask every guest. So these are not unique to you. So favorite movie?
Well, I have to go way, way back on this one. And I am a huge Star Wars fan. The original Star Wars, 1977. And I saw it 17 times in the movie theater.
Wow.
It loved the movie, changed, in a creative business, but completely, Spielberg, awesome. It was incredible.
And look at the franchise they've built out of that, right? It's incredible.
Still going. Yeah, just amazing, amazing.
All right. What are you reading now?
Oh, well, I am rereading a book, which I don't know, maybe that counts, but it's called The Digital Pivot by Eric Schwartzman. I think he just does a great job of breaking down how, as a company, you need to think about not just digital marketing, but digital.
Right.
And how to transform your organization. it just breaks it down in a way that makes, I think, anybody understand it. I recommend that book to a lot of people too, actually.
All right, we'll have to get that one. So more digital as a strategy then in your business.
Well, yeah, core foundation. It's a core foundation of every business,
Yeah.
but it goes well beyond marketing.
And then last question, bucket list concert. And we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, so I'm kind of curious to see how you answer this.
Well, maybe this will give you a little insight into how I think. I don't know. Concert that I haven't seen. I'm a big country fan. I've never seen Kenny Chesney. Love to see Kenny Chesney live. I think that would be awesome. I have seen Garth Brooks live many years ago. That top 1 to 2 right there, right? That was fantastic. Now, the flip side, one that I wanted to go to, I didn't get the chance. And actually, my wife and I were going to go to it because they're going to come out and do it was going to be the last tour, but it was Michael Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Remember when he was prepping and then unfortunately had passed away during.
Right.
You were getting ready to go on. We were going to go. We're going to get tickets. We'd already talked about it, planned about it, but I think that would have been awesome.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bob, this has been fantastic. So thank you for coming on, educating us more on branding and how we think about our brands.
Well, happy to do it, and hopefully people can find, hopefully get some useful thinking out of this.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the CEO to CEO podcast, produced by Dave Swerdlick and the incredible team at Uptown Podcast Studios. You can find them at uptownpodcast.com. Be certain to subscribe so you don't miss an episode with more CEO wisdom, highlighting experience and insights from the trenches. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review and share with others. If you are a Minnesota-based business leader who would like to learn more about being part of a peer advisory roundtable, check us out at ceo-roundtable.org.